Hello, once again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Today we are going to be going over lesson 30-2, which is histograms. Today we're going over lesson 30-2, histograms. And so I encourage you to take notes as you are watching this video. Also, we are going to be going back and forth between these notes and its accompanying assignment. And so I do recommend that on Schoology, you do have both the textbook and the submission open as well. A quick reminder, please, you can pause this video. You can pause, you can rewind. So if I say anything and you don't quite get it, or you need some time to copy something down, please pause the video. You can definitely do that. Let's go ahead and begin. So when we're talking about histograms, a histogram is a type of graph, and it actually looks a lot like a bar chart, but there are some key differences, and you will know those by the end of this video. Before we get into histograms, though, I do want to talk about the different types of variables that we've seen in this class. And those are categorical variables and numerical variables. Again, those are categorical variables and numerical variables. And what remember about categorical variables is that those are variables that place data into different categories depending on observable differences. In other words, differences that have nothing to do with well, I want to say numerical differences, but think of things like eye color, think of things like favorite ice cream flavor, preferred superpower, anything else would be a numerical variable. For numerical variable, think of things not only that produce numbers, but also those numbers are both, and this is very important, make sure you remember, those numbers can either be measurable or countable. Measurable or countable. The numbers in numerical data, it's not just that they are numbers, okay? Because you can have numbers in categorical data. Think of things like when you use numbers to order things like room number or the number of your birth month. But the numbers in the data must either be measurable. Think of things like height or the temperature outside or the time it takes you to do something. Those things are measurable or countable, like consider the number of pets that you might have or the number of pieces of gum that you might chew in a day. Those things are countable or measurable. Anyways, we remember that for categorical data, we can use bar charts. We've already seen that. But for numerical data, we can use dot plots, which we're going to see today again. And we're also going to change those dot plots into histograms. So you can see the similarities between those two. And again, dot plots and histograms are from numerical data. Now, for the first problems in your assignment today, ladies and gentlemen, you are going to notice that, again, numerical data can be split into data that is either measurable or countable. Okay, so again, variables are either categorical or numerical, and within numerical data, the data is either going to be measurable or countable. All right, so you're going to look at different variables in your assignment. For example, the student's height, and you're going to put either C for countable, or you're going to put M for measurable, or C for counting or M for measuring. Make sure that it's capitalized. Number of pets, again, is that a counting variable or is that a measuring variable? Do you measure the number of pets or do you count the number of pets? Amount of time to finish a test, or do you measure time or do you count time? Number of pairs of shoes that you own and the length of your index finger. So again, you could put C for counting or M for measuring. Remember, these are all numerical variables, but we want to distinguish between counting and measuring variables. Same thing for number 2. But let's go on to number 4. Let us go on to number 4, which, well, we can see this, number 2 through 4 have to do with the same problem. But anyways, so these numbers that we see here in number 2 is the number of pieces of gum that are chewed per day for each student. So these are the pieces of gum. For example, one student chewed 4 pieces of gum, another one chewed 1, another one chewed 1, another one chewed 5, etc. And so this is a total number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 students. We have 23 students. So what we're going to do first, ladies and gentlemen, is make a dot plot. And again, I do encourage you to pause this video if you need to at any point. For this dot plot, I can see that the lowest value is indeed 0 and the highest value is 5. So I'm going to go by ones until I get to 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And make sure that you do label each of those lines. Remember, when making dot plots, you do want to go one number at a time. It may seem tedious, but it is the easiest way to ensure that you do not skip a number and make a careless mistake. For example, I'm going to begin with the number 4, so I'm going to cross out the number 4 and place the dot right there. Continue with the number 1, cross it out and place the dot right there. We have another number 1. We have a 5. We have a 2. Cross out the 3, put the 3 down. A 4. Another 1. 3, 0. You want to be very meticulous in this process. Make sure you don't miss any numbers. Make sure you don't put a dot in the wrong place. Here's a 2. Here's a 3. We have 1 0, 2 zeros, 3 zeros, a 1, another 1, a 2, a 0, and a 1. Excellent. So we have this dot plot here. As a quick reminder of things we've seen before, notice the distribution of this data. Notice that it is skewing to the right. It is skewing to the right. We have most of the data clustered here, and then it is starting to skew to the right. Most people chew between 1 and 0 pieces of gum per day. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there is our dot plot. So what I want to do right now, ladies and gentlemen, is convert this dot plot into a histogram. We're going to convert this dot plot into a histogram so that you can see that they can be used for the same type of data. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is reinforce the fact that we have an x-axis in the bottom. We have these numbers, and these numbers represent the number of pieces of gum chewed. So I want you to write down pieces of gum so that you know what those numbers actually mean. These numbers represent the number of pieces of gum. All right, and then we're going to make a y-axis going up and down. And we're going to go ahead and mark the lines. So this line represents the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, and number 10. I'm going to label every other one. So let's start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10 is the very top. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, what do those numbers mean? Because it is clearly different than these on the x-axis. These numbers represent what we call the frequency. Please write that down. Frequency. Frequency. And frequency, think of the question, how frequently does a student chew 0 pieces of gum? In other words, how often or how many students? You can even put number of students in parentheses if you want. Number of students. How frequently do we see this happening? How frequently do we see 0 happening? Well, that happens 5 times. Anyways, so we're going to use this information to make a dot plot. So again, how frequently do 0 pieces of gum get chewed? It is 5 times. It is 5 students. So 0 happens 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Notice that the bar, so to speak, goes as high as the number 5. How frequently is it for 1 piece of gum being chewed? Well, let me make my bar. Oops, that is not what I want. It goes all the way up to 8. Here is the number 8. What about 2? 2 happens 3 times. Notice that it goes up to the number 3. 3 happens 4 times. 4 happens 2 times. And 5 happens one time. So as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, a histogram, this is a histogram. It is a lot like a bar chart, but the bars, this is one thing you need to know. The bars are touching. The bars are touching because remember, this is a numerical variable. Okay, I cannot just take the bars and switch them around. I cannot decide, hey, 3 is my favorite number, so I want to move this bar over here to the front. No, they do go in a continuous order. So that's one of the reasons why the bars do have to be touching. But as you can see in a histogram, it is very easy to read. Instead of having to count the dots, I just have to see how high does the bar go on the chart. So for example, how often is it that 0 students chew gum? Well, it goes up to the number 5. So it's 5. How often is it that 1 piece of gum is being chewed? Well, that happens for 8 students. I can see the bar going all the way up to number 8, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So ladies and gentlemen, now that we have that information, this dot plot, we can now fill this frequency chart that we do see in number 4. We can easily read the chart if you go back to the histogram that you just made, and you can easily put that information there. What was the frequency? How often was it that 0 pieces of gum were chewed? How often was it that 1 piece of gum was chewed? And again, you can place that on that frequency chart. And I'll let you guys do that on your own. Moving on to the second page of notes, ladies and gentlemen. Notice that we have, this is going to be number 14 from our textbook, where we see a whole bunch of numbers. And again, you can either see it here on the notes, or you can go back to the textbook if you go down to number 14. And what do these numbers actually mean? What information do they represent? Well, number one, it is numerical data. It is the number of stairways in these students' homes. The number of stairways in these students' homes. So, for example, this student has 4 stairways in their home. This student has 0. This student has 0. This student has 4, etc., etc. So, what am I doing? Am I measuring the number of stairways, or am I counting the number of stairways? It is a numerical variable, number of stairways, and we count the number of stairways. So it is a counting variable. And so, ladies and gentlemen, before we even fill out this chart, let's go ahead and make a dot plot out of this data. Let's go ahead and make a dot plot. And in this dot plot, on the bottom, these numbers are going to represent the number of stairways. And we do have our x-axis. And I did go ahead and make a y-axis because we are going to convert this dot plot into a histogram in a little bit. And I am going to go by ones. And again, pause the video if you need to. And let's go ahead and go one number at a time. Here's the number 4, cross it out. So I'm going to put number 4 right here. 2 zeros, so we have 0 and 0. We have another 4. We have a 2 and a 2. We have a 3, 2, 1, 2, 4, 5, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, and then 3 2s. Make sure you have enough space. Maybe I should have gone use not the full line, but half line. But regardless, here is my dot plot. So ladies and gentlemen, you're going to convert that dot plot into a histogram. Instead of dots, you are going to label each of these lines. Remember that each of these lines is going to represent the frequency. How often is that happening? How often are you seeing 0 stairways? Frequency. Or you can also put number of students that have those stairways, number of students. And once you do that, you fill in the frequency chart. And guys, this should be a pretty easy assignment. And the reason why it's easy is because, again, the graphs give us that visual representation that allow us to easily read the information and make conclusions about it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that in mind, I hope that this video was sufficient. And with that in mind, I will see you next time.